Algorand, 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 large amounts, digital left the physical space, the community had to be great.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? We've got JT here, we've got David over at the Crypto for Change, and we've got C Will over at Passive Income Network. What's going on, guys?
Nothing, just getting hyped from C Will's Algorand anthem, right? I was over here like, hey.
No, you got me hyped too. I was like mixing it and did a little dubstep remix.
I actually did put it on my mixer to do that, so that's actually really funny.
Hey, it sounds dope too. So yeah, I'm hyped now. I'm like, I almost bought more Algorand right now.
Perfect. So how's everyone doing besides hyped from that video?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good, man. Like, besides all the red in the market, my spirits are up high. Going to the beach. I mean, life's good.
Yep, I was at the beach last night. Obviously, when the market's red, we just go outside and we enjoy life, while buying more of what we believe in.
Exactly.
That's the way to be. And for anyone tuning in, let us know what you want us to discuss in the chat. We've got a docket of things to start off with. But yeah, let us know in the chat if there's anything you want us to touch on or if you have any comments. But let's start right off with some El Salvador speculation. Actually, you know what? Let's go with market sentiment. We want to start off with market sentiment because it is absolutely bloody out there. And, is it going to continue? What do you think? Are we in for a relief bounce or are we continuing? What do you think?
I definitely think we're in for a relief bounce. The last time we saw, if you pulled up the Algorand chart, obviously you could look at Bitcoin's chart, I feel like, as well. But just looking at Algorand's chart over the last, 3 months, when we had that dip below 60, whatever cents, or no, I think it was when we first touched it, 69 cents back in March. We had a nice pop back almost to $1. This is even more of a drastic drop that we had from, the 60-cent range where we were like right at 67 cents all the way down to 34 cents was the low. So that was a huge drop. Definitely, the charts show that there was some capitulation and whatnot. And right now we're hovering right at 40 cents. So I'm hoping to see at least a return back to that, above 50 cents, possibly, or hopefully 60 cents is where I would love to see us get back to. But then from there, obviously, I feel like it would also depend upon, where the overall market is. But yeah, I'm hoping for a slight, relief bounce.
Yeah, what do you think, JT?
I personally do think a relief bounce could happen. I'm not expecting it to go too high. If we break past this little down channel right here around 40 or around 65 cents, then I believe the next stop would be maybe $1.07 tops and then come back down. So I don't think the relief bounce is going to send us back to the moon, but I could see, anywhere from 67 to like $1.07 happening, depending on, how strong the relief bounce is. But yeah, really things don't look great on the macro still. We're still waiting for the next CPI reading. We're waiting for the next the next rate hikes, and Bitcoin doesn't look that great either. So I think we're going to have a relief bounce as well to a similar mark right here, maybe to like 36,000. If we break that, then maybe to about 38,000, and then get rejected right here, right around this 50 and 100-day moving average, and then come back down to this big green area that I have over here.
That should be a big red circle.
It won't be red because this is where I want to buy. That's what it is. That's what it is.
You'll make it green. So So when was Bitcoin's all-time high? Was that November 2021?
Yes, sir.
And I seen Algorand's all-time high, or most recent high, was in September of 2021. I think it was $2.35.
Yeah, unless you count this like one crazy wick that happened when I think it was a fund invested in it. It was let's see, yes,
285, right?
November 17th, and yeah, it topped out at like $2.99 on this one. On what it depends on the exchange you're on too. That's the thing. Those prices are different on some. That's where arbitrage comes in, and people make mad money on arbitrage.
Yeah, see, I feel like we do have a long bear market that we're going to be into.
Yep. I've been saying for
Yeah,
a long time, everything points to November. I mean, the
November, yeah.
Bitcoin halving cycle in November. We've got, let's see, we've got the recession that typically, usually recessions last for about 11 months on average, and a
Yep.
recession is decided by 2 quarters of negative growth. And we've had our first quarter. This is going to be our second quarter. So at the end of the second quarter, that's 6 months right there. You add another 5 months, there's November.
Yep.
And, it just so happens at the same time that the ISO 20022 standards go live in November. And it
Yep.
also happens that FIFA, the World Cup starts in November. So, in my opinion, November could be a great time to be buying or leading up to it.
And and it's holiday season, so a lot of spending will be around that time. People are going to be breaking the bank spending.
True, but actually, the holiday season is typically not the best for investing. People usually take their money out to buy presents.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm like,
Yeah.
they're going to be spending money. It could be a harsh one.
Yep. Yep.
Because the last time Bitcoin was really popping was, I remember December of 2020, around that winter. That's when all the coins were starting to take off. So you thinking of 2024 after the halving, or is that the halving this year?
Yeah, the 2024 is the next halving. I think somewhere like April or something like that. Um, but yeah, I do think probably the next all-time high isn't until 2025 to be real.
Which I think is also what a lot of people, I would say, are not really preparing for. I feel like even within the sentiment within the Algorand community on Twitter and whatnot, I feel like most people are buying these dips, expecting to
Hey,
see Algorand back above, big money at least, probably back above $2 by the end of this year or even higher. Whereas like
No.
it could easily, like I said, we may get a relief bounce to, something in the range of $1, here in this year still, but there's still a good chance that if we drop back down, we could be under $1 all the way until sometime in 2023.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I mean, really, it times out perfect though, because if you look at this the last cycle in 2017, I mean, we also peaked around November, December. We bottomed around the following November, December, right on this 200-week moving average, and really that could time out perfectly right now. Right now, the 200-week moving average is right around $22,000, and really that's not too far from here. That's about a 25% drop from where we are now, and that's not too unrealistic to see over the course of the next 4 or 5 months and time out pretty much perfectly with the last 4-year cycle. So
Isn't a bear market considered 2 quarters of a 25% loss or downtrend?
there are way too many definitions for a bear market, to be honest.
We're definitely in one right now, obviously.
Oh, recession though. The recession is
Recession, I mean.
a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. Yeah, negative GDP growth.
Okay. Yeah, here we are. And then the next Fed hike will be in June, I believe, right?
Yep, next
Half a
month.
percent.
You had me thinking. I was like, what month are we in right now? But yeah, next month. I think the middle of the month. I did a video on it with the important dates for CPI and for the rate hikes. It's one of my most recent videos, so feel free to check that out if anyone hasn't. But unless we have any more thoughts, let's move on to some El Salvador speculation. Recently, let's see if I can pull this up real quick. Give me 1 second over here. Let's see.
Yeah,
Boom.
32 central banks,
So
12 financial authorities from
Yes, sir.
44 countries will be meeting in El Salvador to discuss financial inclusion, digital economy, banking the unbanked, and Bitcoin rollout and the benefits.
Indeed.
Before we hop too far in this, Algorand was just I retweeted it a few days ago, but they were just at a big economic conference, and like no one was talking about that.
What was the name of the conference?
It was let me go to my damn it.
There's been so many conferences. It's like
Yeah, there was.
hard to keep up.
Yeah, but go ahead. We can
While,
continue.
while you're finding that, Coinbase put out a tweet. Of course, it was I can't read it, so I had to translate it. And it said, "Big announcement. There is incredible news next to Algorand to come to light. Depending on the support you give to this tweet, we'll upload them or not. Blah blah blah." And let's see, And just so everyone knows, Coinbase is the company that is working with Algorand and El Salvador to build their government infrastructure on Algorand. And as David pointed out, the president of El Salvador said that tomorrow, which was yesterday now, so today, 32 central banks and 12 financial authorities will meet in El Salvador to discuss Bitcoin, essentially. So Riley, a friend of the show, said, "When news, Coinbase says soon." I put all the dots together, and Coinbase likes the tweet. So I personally think there's, it's all speculation right now, but I think there could be some big news to play with Algorand and Bitcoin and these 32 central banks. And, there's a list of them too. None of them are really the American ones, to be honest, but which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought it was also interesting that the CEO of Coinbase said, in a tweet today, because he was, hinting at they're going to release this information as well. If you're watching this, guys, in a live Twitter space on Thursday at 2. So following our episode of the next block, we'll make sure we wrap up in time so that everybody can join that and listen. But he also said, "Algo fam, I'm not going to play dumb with you guys. Never. This announcement was intended to take place at the Bitcoin conference in Miami. But they didn't allow us to do it because it wasn't Bitcoiner enough, despite the fact that it has both Algo and Bitcoin at the center." So I do think that is something, even in, the recoup, he had, I'm forgetting her name, Natalie Brunel, or I think Natalie was her first name. I know Brunel, I'm pretty sure was her last name, but she was on there and she has the Bitcoin stories. It was kind of cool, getting to hear her background. But the coup kind of slid in at the end, a little information about how Algorand is being leveraged in El Salvador for the banks to move Bitcoin. And she was kind of like, deer caught in the headlights, didn't really say anything. It was like, yeah. And, and it's like, I feel like it's kind of funny how, it's getting swept under the rug, not even really swept under the rug, but it's just not getting the mainstream attention that, there's other, factors at play with El Salvador and with, crypto being adopted in that area and in Latin America. And Algorand seems to kind of just be given, the cold shoulder, and Bitcoin is getting all the love, I guess you would say.
I mean, I definitely agree because I'm also getting a little confused about Algorand's full role in all of this. I do know they're supposed to be, on the payment rails. And I think it was JT's sometime our private messages and chats, Twitters all get mixed up. But definitely, Algorand seems like it's going to be so underlying that the mainstream is not going to know about it. And again, what David said, Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin. So I don't actually even know what's going to happen at this point. I'm getting confused.
That's why I'm excited for this Twitter space. And the thing is, too, is I feel like everyone in the space is very much so wanting things to be instant, like as soon as an announcement is made. So like, back when they first announced that they were going to be using Algorand, in my opinion, things are moving relatively slowly. It's not like governments don't move fast. That's the thing that people have to know about governments. They do not move fast whatsoever. So they could still be building out almost all of this infrastructure. So the entirety of what Algorand will be used for might still be unclear. So that is there's valid reason for you to be unsure of what the of what they're doing.
Yeah,
it makes me think of like when they had the Sierra compliance certificate, I guess in 2019, right? But we finally hear about them with FIFA 3 years later. So it might be one of those situations where we say 2025, all this stuff that's happening now actually activates and matters.
It's all a piece of the puzzle,
like
and it's a crazy jigsaw puzzle that might take years to put together.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole 10,000 transactions per second. We may not need it right now, but 2 years from now, when Algorand starts to gain those partnerships and need to have that TPS there, it'll already be there. The only thing that I know that's being used as far as Algorand non-financial in El Salvador or in Latin America is the Vital Pass, which is the whole COVID-19 testing passports. Which I'm not going to talk COVID or anything like that, but it still is a good indication of how Algorand's tech can be used, to put something on the blockchain that's immutable, that's, that you can prove something, is real and it's yours and you've done it, or whatever have you. So it is interesting, that side of it. And then you go and look at even like what Sam Bankman-Fried, the leader of FTX said, or, has been quoted about saying that, he doesn't see Bitcoin as a future of payments. Now he did say, he did come out and tweet today as well on that tweet that he does see Bitcoin as a storage of value. And that is where I ultimately see it. I see it as being, a storage of value, because why? I mean, I often think this, like, I get it that you could go to, McDonald's or Burger King or wherever it may be, and you could pay for this in Bitcoin. But why would you want to pay for something like that with an asset that could appreciate the way Bitcoin has? So I definitely see Bitcoin as more of the storage of value. But as far as the payments and the future of payments goes, that's where something like Algorand and the tech with Algorand could really be leveraged. I mean, it's fast, carbon negative, finality is one of the biggest things that does not get talked about. I know transactions per second does with the likes of Solana and stuff, but even Silvio mentioned that at the Milken Institute. He's like, finality. He's like, the stock market right now, trades on T2, time plus 2 days that from when you execute it to when it actually gets finalized. And imagine right now, Algorand can give 4.5 seconds and soon 2.5 seconds, and was even in response to the founder of Solana saying that, they're going to be the ones to take over the, doing the whole transactions for the NASDAQ. But it's like, what's good? What's that good if you're instead of T2, you're T plus 7, right? And you just make it worse. Like, it's about improving it and making it better. And that's where Algorand, I think, could come in El Salvador, in Latin America, with these banks moving money, especially once ISO 222 goes into effect, and then you got cross-border payments and all that stuff. They're going to need a blockchain that can handle it and can do it fast, cheap, and have quick finality.
I definitely agree. When I think about, I was reading the Bitcoin Standard. I'm still working my way through this book, but it talks about like Gold's Road as that store of value, and then they were using, we were using silver for, I guess, like micro payments. So I'm still seeing that same thing playing out. But again, Bitcoin being our digital gold, stablecoin, I feel like has to be the payment processor, because no one wants a set money that goes up and down in value. Basically, it has to be in that way. So I feel like all this stablecoin regulation and things that are going to happen mixed with CBDs will lead towards us using USDC as a stablecoin. But on the Algorand rails, as you just described, we need faster finality. Banks don't actually finalize none of these transactions as fast as we think they do. It's a third party like PayPal, and all these people are doing things, which also isn't a fast finality. So that's my theory on it. Bitcoin, Algorand, rails, stable coins for payment processing, store value Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And, I guess I'll just add that in reality, if you really think about the economics of it, no deflationary asset will actually be a good currency to build an economy around, especially a growth-centric economy, because as David pointed out, you're incentivized to save this asset that's going to appreciate over time as opposed to spend it. But what does that do? That just grinds your growth economy to a halt, because spending is the driving force of a growth economy. It's what gives companies their earnings, and it makes their stock prices go up. Makes it. It's what keeps the gears of the economy churning, is the ability to have a stable asset that you're incentivized to actually spend with. So I do completely agree with everything you said there, Will, about it being the store of value, and a decentralized store of value at that. Well, hopefully, the centralized mining doesn't continue to take over. But I want to cycle back to something that you brought to our attention before this this talk. That who did it? Was it Steve Kokinos? Was it
Steve Kokinos? Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. He gave a speech at or was on a discussion at the Central Banks and Digital Currency Symposium. It was called the Global Annual DMI, which is the Digital Monetary Institute Symposium, a Technology and Crypto Assets panel. Did you watch that video?
I did.
Now, what were your thoughts? Because I'm probably maybe 10, 20 minutes into it.
I mean, my thoughts, at least from what I could understand as far as like listening to the Fed and like their regulations and how they see Or I say this. My biggest takeaway and what I was thinking as like listening to it, and I wish I would have, I wish Steve would have been able to speak a little more. He didn't have as many talking points as I probably would like to hear his thought from like an Algorand perspective. But from their perspective, they were like, here's the, here is the kind of the rules to play by and what regulation is out there, and then kind of saying that like these DeFi platforms and all these things that are being created, they don't need to wait necessarily for all this other clarity, I guess, to come. They were kind of saying that they should look out there, see what's there, and just be doing KYC, be doing all the things that they need to do to make sure they're already in, I guess you could say, you know, in like doing the right things instead of waiting. And so that was kind of interesting, just from what they were saying, that they should already be planning for that. Whereas I feel like most things are still kind of just doing their own thing and then waiting for regulation to come. Steve didn't really get to answer that. That was the head or the old federal commissioner guy that answered that, the Timothy guy. But I mean, most of what Steve was saying in the interview, I mean, obviously I would recommend to go watch it. I'm not going to be able to regurgitate verbatim what he said. But he did put in a good light of why, something like Algorand is positioning itself well in that area.
Well, so basically you're saying stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And Algorand does have enough people mixed in with the government and SEC and all that to actually understand what they are looking for. That's what I'm getting at what you're saying, right?
For sure. I mean, people don't really realize, I think, how connected Algorand is. I mean, just look at this symposium. I mean, this conversation that we're talking about was put on by the OMFIF, which is the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum. And who were the partners for the symposium? You've got Algorand, you've got AWS, you've got Silo,
all payment processing.
Microsoft, Meta, Swift, which is the global payment processing rails for almost every central bank in the world. You've got Ripple and Visa.
XRP.
Yep.
ISO 222.
Yep, they still fighting the case strong too.
Indeed. And honestly, even our recent partnership, or Algorand's recent partnership with WadsPay, they're very connected to Ripple and these Visa and MasterCard and Swift as well. So there is this huge, there's something massive brewing. And I swear, it really harpens back to November when the ISO 20022 standards go live, and big banks and all the central banks like Swift will be using ISO 20022 standards, and Algorand is one of the 5 cryptos that are compliant in those standards.
Yeah, it was interesting to see. I saw somebody was tweeting out saying that the WadsPay partnership was like, to them, was bigger than like Algorand partnering with like Amazon or something. Now, I don't know why, I've not done all the in-depth, to see where the inner workings of WadsPay is, but I agree. They're like, when this, and I will say this, I read somewhere that the ISO 222 has been delayed. So it will be interesting, it's been delayed in its past. So it will be interesting to see if there is another possible delay that could come to this going through, or if, it will for sure. I mean, I know that it has a sunset date of like where, it's going to set at this time. And if you're not, when I did a little reading, it said, if you're not to the standard to be able to use the transaction, there will be a small service that does help, people get, transitioned over, or that will take a little bit of that old style and help, I guess, modify it in a way that it can be sent and used on the new standard. But it's not going to be something that you're going to want to rely on. You're going to want to have that to already be up to speed and up to date. So that is something that I will be watching as well as it gets closer, is hoping that, there is no delay and that it does go through, and we'll see what effect that could have on Algorand. I mean, it could also be that we're just in such a crypto winter bear market that it still is, the price of Algorand might not appreciate, but Algorand may, say the transaction and the network effect of Algorand continues to grow. To me, that would be where you'd see a lot of value and bullishness, even in a crypto winter bear market.
You know what? I think overall with crypto too, is like we're at this situation where we're still, we're all younger, but like around the .com boom, a lot of people were skeptical that the internet was even going to stay around. And I feel like crypto right now is like, the invention of Wi-Fi. Like, it's still being spread around, but everybody is on the internet. And I feel like with crypto, we're still figuring it out. But I think Algorand is positioning itself with all the certificates, the standardizations is the best move it could do right now, because it's definitely not a moon token, which I think like what happened to Luna. When you moon like that, people look for more kinks in your armor, more weaknesses, rather than just you operating and actually making partnerships and deals like Algorand is doing. And then they're clearly, what I like about what Algorand doing, they're educating the regulators right now. I feel like that's the play. Educate the regulators for the next few years. And then when they do want to decide on something, they're usually people go with who they've been educated by, not some
Yeah.
random person. That's how I see it.
Yeah, and to be clear, the ISO 20022 was actually first created in 2004. I'm doing a video on this, and
Wow.
some banks actually do already use these standards and upgraded it. But our government and the Federal Reserve basically said that we will be upgrading to those standards. I don't know what the holdout was over those years. I still have to figure that out. But we'll be upgrading to those standards in November, which is absolutely huge because along with us, there'll be a bunch of other big Western nations that are also upgrading at the same time. There'll still be likely some holdouts, but it's theorized that by 2025, it'll likely be containing about 80 to 85% of like all of the important global transactions, which would be pretty wild.
So what are your all's
That
thoughts on
is.
what this could be? At least the news dropped in from something like Coinbase in Latin America. What are you guys speculating that we could see announced on Thursday? Any ideas?
I hope some more clarity on how Algorand's being used. I mean, really, I don't have any ideas. I have some ideas on how I would love to see Algorand used by a government, but I don't have any ideas on how they will use it. That's for sure. How about you?
I actually, like I said before, I don't know. I have a lot of, guesses and ideas of how I would use it, how I could think. But then again, I'm not El Salvador. I haven't ran a government, so I'm all speculation.
Yep.
Yeah, I would really hope to see that we get more clarification on if Algorand is being used by the banks. Like that's the biggest thing I would say is like, are they transacting using Algorand, whether it's wrapped Bitcoin and a way to move Bitcoin around, or is there any plans of actual integration of it? And then obviously, like you guys are saying, other speculative ideas of how Algorand could be used, whether that's storing personal records, identities.
Personal records make a lot of sense in
Yeah,
identity.
land, real estate. There's all kinds of use cases beyond just like the Vital Pass with the COVID thing. Like there's many other cool things that could be used and could bring value to the Algorand chain, mainly.
I always
The
think of public records definitely for house deeds make sense, and that's something you can supposed to be able to look up anyway, like Library of Congress and all
Yeah.
that, and keep it all public. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it would be it would make a complete sense to do it on a blockchain that wouldn't fork as well, because you don't want to have a copy of a house deed on another chain and have to have some central authority be like determining which one is the official is the official record and which one isn't. That being said, the first country that starts using a open source blockchain to create a voting infrastructure for their democracies, they'll change the game for any democracy in the world.
my
I can't wait to see that happen. I hope it does happen, to be honest.
I would, yeah,
I
it needs
hope
to
it
happen,
happens.
especially even with just what we saw in America with voting in the last, major election. There
Every
shouldn't be
election. I mean,
doubt.
if
Yeah.
if you go through the history of time, there's reports even on like Abe Lincoln's election that there's reports of like election fraud and stuff. So it's not a new thing. I mean, people in power have been doing things with their power to manipulate elections and people's votes and who counts the votes and what have you in every country that does elections. So
They
it's not
just
a
did
it,
it in
go for it.
Philippines. Just happened. There had a corrupt election, and Facebook was all
Hmm.
involved, and the same family won again somehow against the opposition that had like 14 million votes. So it's always happening, and
Yep.
like we said, especially with like January 6th and all this stuff. Like if everything was just on a mutable blockchain, we can all go look at it, see who vote what wallet or who voted for who after some type of verification to vote. That will eliminate all the problems that we're having, because this is truly America for sure is not like a true democracy. It's a representative, So that already is the main issue, that once our representative gets there, they make their own decision based on who paid them money. So that's the whole problem right there. We got to, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
We'll get back to.
No, it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So let's move on to the Coinbase
Want to hit some of these
conversation a little bit.
questions?
Yeah,
Yep.
let's
That's what I
let's
was
hit
about
some
to
of these
say. Yep.
questions. What are you seeing out there? What
The
do you guys
Coinbase
think?
one, that's where. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's where the show is going anyway. So I do appreciate the question, but we'll pop it up on there anyway. What do you guys think of the 5% on Coinbase? And of course, I think it's a mixed bag. I think it's a great idea that Coinbase is doing this again, and I think it's good for Algorand in reality. And we were speaking about this before the show, and it's primarily, the 6% that Coinbase was giving is what drew me to Algorand in the first place. So there'll be many people that are going to find Algorand because of this. But it also is them trying to incentivize you to bring your coins back to Coinbase. I personally think they're starting to run out of coins and might have to start dipping into their governance bag soon. So it is a mixed bag. I think personally, if you're in the Algorand community and you're comfortable with wallets and DeFi, you should move your coins off of exchanges. But for the new people that are just starting out, that are just downloading the Coinbase app today or tomorrow and are just, browsing through and they see that 5.75%, that's great for Algorand in reality.
Yeah, I agree. That's exactly how I got started. I was looking for a high yield, a safe one. I didn't know much about Algorand, but when I saw that 5-6% APY, I had to do my research on it, and it turned out to be a great pick. So I think too, for you new users and people who don't truly use DeFi, I would go with Coinbase.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with JT that it's going to help get people to see it, obviously, because there's not many coins that are offering on Coinbase at least that high of a reward for just staking there. So I think that definitely helps give Algorand some eyes that maybe it wouldn't have got before. And just like you said, this could lead to other people then, once you hold Algorand, well, then you want to know, could I be earning yield better? Well, if you're on Twitter or something, you may start doing some diving, find out you can through governance. And then you're falling down the DeFi rabbit hole. And then, 2 months later, all your money's on AlgoFi.
That's me. Well, what do y'all think about, I think it's Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. They had to put all the cleaned up messages about the bankruptcy potential. He's saying they had to also update their, I guess, there you go, terms and conditions and all that.
Yeah,
what do y'all feel about this?
It's really a perfect segue as to one of the many reasons why I think you should move your coins off of Coinbase or any other platform into your own wallet, because it's not your keys, not your coins, and we've heard this many times. I personally think, because it's not just Coinbase, we're actually seeing this with other exchanges too. I think they just legally had to come out with these disclosures. These disclosures just had to come out. I don't think there's an actual fear of Coinbase's bankruptcy. Regardless, though, there is a fear that if anything happened, a crazy hack or they go bankrupt or something like that, this highlighted part right here, because custodially held crypto assets may be considered to be the property of a bankruptcy estate, in the event of a bankruptcy, the crypto assets we hold in custody on behalf of our customers could be subject to bankruptcy proceedings, and such customers could be treated as our general unsecured creditors. And what this basically means is these aren't your cryptos. In a bankruptcy court, your crypto would actually be seen as you lending it to Coinbase. You would be their creditors. Those cryptos would be theirs, effectively loaned to you. So likely the court might do something and rule in your favor eventually, but that might be months, years down the line after bankruptcy proceedings. These things take forever, and that's just one. That's just one failsafe, really. I mean, anything could happen. So, not your keys, not your crypto. Put them in a wallet.
You want to pull up that chart?
Here's what I would say as well, before we move past it is, one, I'd say this: Coinbase, just like many exchanges are, and I don't know, how you would, think about how you guys think about this, but I don't think they're too big to fail yet. But I do believe that if the worst outcome that we think could come, I think there'd be bailouts. I think people. I think there could be ways in which the government would step in to let them not fail. We saw that in the 2008 financial crisis with all the banks. But even like a better reason of why not to trust exchanges, and why you need to learn more about, self custody and holding that. Just thinking like Bitcoin, how it was, started. You literally where it was a peer-to-peer. You would hold your Bitcoin and you would send it. There was no exchanges. It was just a peer-to-peer network. And with all these, exchanges now coming into the fold, what I say it leads to is manipulation, right? The more exchanges that are out here and the more people that keep, just like the banks, the more people who put your money in the bank, the more the banks can manipulate and take advantage. It's the same way with crypto. If everybody's giving the crypto exchanges their assets, they're lending them out and making money off of your crypto sitting there. And then they might give you, the 5.75 looks really enticing, but guess what? They're earning 10, 15, 20, 30 because they know how to use it better than you do. And so it's the same, I see it as the same thing repeating again. And that's where I feel like we need to educate people in the crypto space to feel confident with their own keys. I mean, I know people who, once I showed them that they had to keep the, 25 key passphrase and like all these things, like that was a lot. And so I'm hoping the user interface gets better in the future so that people feel more confident. But it is true. It's not your keys, not your crypto. And before we go to that chart, one other thing that I saw Recoup was talking to, or that the lady he had on, they were kind of talking about this futures, right? ETF, I think, that's trying to get approved for Bitcoin, or is it already approved?
I think it's a spot ETF, right?
No, the futures.
The spot ETF is looking to be approved, but
futures was approved a while ago.
Yeah, futures. Okay. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't that mean that technically there is no fixed supply of Bitcoin when you have things like that? Correct.
Effectively,
it's a derivative.
It's a similar thing with having them on the exchange. Really, yeah, you're making the correct connection for sure.
Yeah. So then that's the whole point, is like, even though, yes, something like Coinbase can be super useful, it helps you buy it. It helps you get access to it. Maybe if you don't have, other means, like a decentralized way. But when you do it, I believe you should move those off into your own, cold storage wallet obviously is the best if you have that. If not, just your own wallet that you trust and you've done research on, because then it levels the playing field and it starts taking out these big, Coinbase, Qcoin, FTX, and all these things. I mean, that's the reason why Sam Bankman-Fried's the richest, and one of the youngest multi-billionaires. I don't know how much money he has, but it's just because he's making so much money, because you're trusting him with your crypto just like you trust the bank with your money.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point to stress, because it really is true that these centralized. Oh, I hear an echo. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's on mine, but either way, it is important that to know that these centralized exchanges and what have you, they really can manipulate essentially the supply of a token, because Bitcoin, for example, there's 21 million, but they could lend out technically like 50 or 100 million Bitcoin, because they're playing off the mindset that not everybody's going to come and ask for that Bitcoin at the same time. So then you have an exponential amount of short selling that can happen in these bear markets on essentially like paper-backed Bitcoin that really doesn't exist. It's basically fiat money at that point. That's basically what's happening.
Yep.
And that's how another big crash could happen. And you could see a lot of exchanges get wiped out. You could see something like a Coinbase go into bankruptcy because they were lying about how much, or that, they were just doing the things that banks do, and they got caught with their hand in the cookie jar, right?
Yep.
So we do know, why, clearly the point is hold your own Bitcoin into a ledger or some type of software wallet, of course. And we know once the 21 million coins come out, 2,140. Yep, there you go, JT.
Yep.
2,140, but you can break those units down into 100 million Satoshis. So the target would be to get your Satoshi bags up, because all of this is only going to expand once these sovereign wealth funds and governments start to buy it. And then what we all said, yes, there is going to be futures and all this trading that's going to make this supply appear to be bigger and larger, but it's not going to be technically with how many Bitcoins we have. It's just the trading of them will amplify, it seems.
Yeah. See, and that's one thing that does make me nervous. I do get nervous about seeing everything just become more like Wall Street. I mean, it's
happening regardless. Wall Street runs this shit.
Yeah, and that's where I feel like, that's not how, obviously that wasn't the intention of Bitcoin. That's where it's like, as the community, I don't know. I don't know what, I don't know if it is already too far gone to really, revert back to not trust, not, these exchanges not building up to be the massive conglomerates that they could become. But I would love to see a future where it's not, where it really is peer to peer. We are the bank, like we're banking ourselves with our own wallets and not trusting all these big, centralized entities to do it all for us.
See,
Yeah.
that's the thing of education about sovereignty. That's what a lot of people don't know about. So it's like how they're not going to trust themselves. They're going to trust the big institutions. I'm
Yeah.
always talking about, the point of these institutions. We don't like it, but we know they're backed by our whole government.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll agree that it is basically, there's no doubt that it is going to become the new Wall Street, really. The only thing I can hope is that it maintains and retains that permissionless aspect of it and decentralized aspect of it, because and really people shouldn't have doubted that it was going to become the new Wall Street, because especially people in the crypto space. I mean, almost everybody in the space, minus a few people, are capitalists. And, it is a market. In a capitalist market, the people with the capital win. And who have the capital historically? Those that run Wall Street. Like, who
Yep.
didn't think they'd win this system too? Like, is kind of
Yeah.
naive, So I do hope that, one, maybe we restructure the system someday. Maybe we have a more honest debate on what works and what doesn't work. But I don't want to get too political. But regardless, it is kind of the inevitable. I just hope it maintains that permissionless aspect of crypto, because that is its bread and butter. The fact that we can have permissionless and decentralized means of finance and contact and transactions. If that goes away, then crypto, the experiment fails.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'll say this: the decentralized network is still decentralized, but definitely the capital is going to be controlled by
Yeah.
Wall Street. Because if Bitcoin crashed, right, and went down to, back to 1 cent or something, it still is doing its job by being a peer-to-peer decentralized network. It's just what we all want is a high price of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Still, it will-
capital has always concentrated all of the wealth, or most of it, so that there's no surprise that capital concentrates most of the wealth in any of these cryptos, which isn't great, but it's fine as long as everything maintains that permissionless aspect, as I spoke of before. People were naive if they thought the concentration of wealth wasn't going to continue. In fact, the concentration of wealth has got worse since all of this democratization of finance started with things like Robinhood and what have you.
Yeah.
When you think about, I'm a fan of Michael Saylor, but at the same time, it's a billionaire who his company makes 50 to 70 million a year, as he said, in cash. But it's another guy who already has billions who is now buying Bitcoin in the millions. So it's kind of like he's only perpetuating billionaires becoming richer in the next 100 years, and that part sucks. But I understand what he's doing by educating people and pushing Bitcoin.
Yeah, unless there's a big crash and he gets margin called, which
Doubtful.
would be really interesting and also really bad for the crypto market. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, let's hit some more of these questions.
Let's hit some
There was
more
that
questions
chart. I
from-
don't know if you were. I know I interrupted you guys when you were trying to show.
Oh
that
no, you're
chart,
good. It
but
wasn't done. It was just the chart of
That's
Coinbase
yeah.
actually.
Yeah, 85% down from the
wish-
start.
I wish we had the mark where Jim Cramer said he likes Coinbase to 375.
If
I
Jim
could do-
Cramer talks about it, it's dead.
I bet it was like right at that April green, like right around there.
Let's talk about this
probably.
real quick. This is the problem. Like Coinbase, I believe it dropped in around 2011 or 12, right? So it's been fine for 10 years roughly, and then it goes public. Now it's worth shit. Like,
I mean, that's
always-
because Wall Street is. I mean, when stocks IPO, just like when these cryptos IDO or ICO or whatever you want to call it, that's the reason why they're so happy standing there ringing that bell on Wall Street. It's their payday. Like they've been working for this company from the start, so they were getting stocks for free, right? They probably have not even been buying this stock. They just get it because they work there, especially if you're the founding team and you build up this huge valuation. You get so many people hyped about, oh my gosh, it's going live. I'm going to be able to own some of Apple, or I'm going to be able to own some of this. And then when it goes live, some of them will do well for a while, but ultimately, and I think they ultimately do well for a while because there's so much volatility that there's swing traders and day traders in there that can pump the price up and will arbitrage and will take advantage of it. But when it really comes down to value, that's where you'll be like, that's when the first earnings report comes out, or the second or third, and then you start seeing the landslide because it's like, oh, this valuation was actually total BS. This company's not worth that much, and they've actually had a horrible year.
And to see Will's point, I mean, do we know what the valuation of Coinbase was before they went live? Because it very well could be that everything was so frothy that its valuation, even after dropping 85, 90%, might still in fact be higher than what it was valued on the private market. I don't have that data, so it very well could be that. But yeah, to David's point, that's completely his point is completely true too. That the day they go public is basically the day they use everybody as exit liquidity, because they're building up all of these shares in the private market, whether through work compensation deals or private equity deals from investors and what have you.
God, yes.
And once it hits the public market, that's when it hits liquidity. There's not much liquidity in the private market. I mean, there is some, but not comparatively. Like, there's a lot of people that finally get to sell into a likely frothy market, which we very much so had at the time.
Check this out. The rapper Nas and I follow Gary Vaynerchuk. They both were in on Coinbase years ago. So as you said, exit liquidity, they're 150, 200K is now worth 15 million. Of course they're selling once it IPOs.
Yeah,
that's a
flip. It's the whole thing. It's like if you're in the know, you get in and you get in early on these things, and then you sell, just like on even the ICOs of cryptos. If you're in early, I will say this, and this is one thing I've wanted to make a post about, just because it does suck with Algorand. Like, if you look at the top 50 or maybe even 75 cryptos in total market cap or coin market cap, and you look at those, Algorand is one of maybe 2 or 3 that literally have spent most of their time, if not all of their life, as a crypto negative. Like, that is the one thing that sucks being an algo holder at times, is if you're someone who bought in, say, last year or the year before, where it was above $1, $2, you're in the red. And the thing is, you might be in the red for another 2 to 3 more years. And that's what ultimately sucks. Whereas you look at Cardano, why is their community so strong, or why are they so hyped? Because if you were early on Cardano, even not pre-seed, but say you bought in the first year, you're still up, right? Say you bought into Ethereum, you're still up. Bitcoin, you're still up. All these cryptos, I went and looked at every major layer 1 out there, even the ones that I would say Algorand trumps by many standards, like a Solana. Doesn't matter. Solana launched, you didn't get in early, and you bought, say, the week after, you're still up.
Damn,
why is Algorand's tokenomics, why did they suck so much?
Honestly, the tokenomics weren't great. But really, it was all about the launch. The launch was the most miserable thing they ever could have done. And what they really should have done, instead of trying to launch it at
Dutch auction,
for sure, and in reality, there were some foolish people that thought that the price or the value of they were valuing it based on the future potential of Algorand, and really they should have just let it happen and release the coin on the market and maybe had a $200 million market cap and gone from there. Because in my opinion, we'd still be at the same market cap, but instead of starting it at a likely already in the billions of a market cap, starting it around 100 or 200 million or something like that.
Yeah, they blew it.
Yeah,
exactly.
100%.
The price of Algo could have started around, if you would have done that, it could have been, the first price could have been 0.003 Algo or 0.02.
Which would have drew in so much attention that even though they would have got less investment at first, because they could have closed the investment after they got 200 million and started at that market cap or something like that. So they would have had less money to start. But the price increase would have been so much more significant that it wouldn't have had that bad taste in everyone's mouth. It likely would be 2 or 3, 4 factors higher than it is now. And the amount of fundraising they could do with a higher priced Algorand is astronomically trumps what they could have gotten in that race.
And they probably wouldn't have had to do increased vesting. They probably wouldn't have had to dump as many algos that they did last year.
And they wouldn't have had to do those
buybacks. They would have been able to stick with their initial plan. And that's where I really wish I could sit down with some of the founding team and really figure out why they did that.
It was a really bad launch.
Yeah,
what I learned from Nathan Kaiser at ALGO DAO, he was like, bro, basically paraphrasing him, this shit is hard as hell to figure it out. So at some point you just launch and then you got to clean up and go from there. And I definitely feel like Algorand did that.
Yeah, but like, come on, like they literally like why, to some extent, I would say this: why try to reinvent the wheel? Like there had been so many successful cryptos that had launched before them and had shown
Yep,
that hey,
that's
this
true.
does work. Why try to be this? I get it, the tech was revolutionary and they saw themselves as revolutionary in space, but why? I don't know.
Well,
That is the one
Silvio's
thing that frustrates me. And I can't imagine. I wasn't early. I wasn't in 2019. I wasn't buying Algo. I mean, thank
no,
God. I
I
would
didn't
have
buy
definitely
Sil.
been a part of those buybacks. But
In my humble opinion, and I think they've they're immensely better at this now than they were when they started. They were brilliant and are brilliant when it comes to the technology. They understand the technology, of course. They understand how the ins and outs and how it works. But what they didn't understand was the ecosystem. They didn't understand the crypto community. They didn't understand the crypto ecosystem. And I think they were valuing themselves based on TradFi valuations and things like that. Where in reality they should have gone for a much more decentralized launch and didn't do the Dutch auction that created a system in which they could launch at $3-4, which essentially is launching at a fully diluted market cap of 30 or 40 billion dollars before they even had their AVM and ways to create
That's
DeFi.
true.
That is an extremely lofty valuation to try to start off with. I mean, it's kind of incredible.
yeah, and that's the whole
Silvio
thing.
said they.
To kind of, well, you can go ahead real quick.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it kind of just like, brings it back in this aspect of why we got on this tangent was, ICOs, IDOs, IPOs are very, very risky. Even if the company or even if the tech or whatever it is solid behind it and you believe in it, that doesn't mean you should just jump into the investment and think that you're getting in it at the best price. Like something as great as Algorand we've seen, it still is, I mean, under where it started. And the thing is, because of all the things that happened, it could be under for a lot longer, just like Coinbase. Coinbase may be a great company, and Coinbase may go on to be the leading exchange one day where it does, like look at the .com crash. Amazon fell 90% and still look where it's at now. There could be some of those things where, Algorand is down 90% from where its launch is because of all this, and it still goes up to be something great. But it just, you have to be careful with where you put your risk at.
And it really should be, a good reminder to all of us that, to just add to your point, I mean, Amazon was down like 90 or 95% in the beginning after the .com bubble, and it took them almost 14 years to get back to an all-time high. Now, personally, things are much different. I think things are going to move much quicker, but so I'm not saying, it's going to take
all the
14
Algorand
years.
fans like,
No, I'm not saying it's going to take 14 years. I'm just saying
14 years.
when you put it in perspective, some of the greatest assets that you have ever wanted to hold were down for quite some time and made a lot of people regret holding them at those times. So you just have to really understand what you hold, have a long-term mindset, don't overextend yourself, don't over-leverage yourself, and be committed for the long term.
And this is one thing I'll say too. We're in a situation where we can yield farm as well and earn interest, and that's something that we couldn't do with our stocks. And that's why I like cryptos. Like, so maybe, definitely earn you a yield.
It's a good way to put it. I like to crouch down before I take a big jump too. And I mean,
I do too.
exactly.
They just need to take that ceiling of like
That is a good way to put
$2.50 out from us so we can actually jump next time.
Hey, the lower you crouch, usually the higher you can jump. So,
I mean, honestly,
we need the money to go into the market, then stop dumping on us.
Yeah, Algorand chart does look bad when you go like the whole max zoom because all you see is it.
Yeah, there is only one that really looks worse, like really worse. I want to say it's like Maker or MakerDAO. I can't remember. Let me go find it real quick.
Yeah, so it looked bad when I'm like, because even some of my thing, okay, what does the all-time chart look? You go, oh, this is a down chart. So I'm breaking my own rules, investing in something that has a down chart like that. But I understand what Algorand is trying to accomplish, and I'm more educated.
Oh no, it's ICP,
Internet Computer. I wouldn't touch that. It
started at 365, and it's literally just been straight down. It's worth $8.31. But I don't know I don't know its whole system and why.
I wouldn't touch it.
Yeah, it may be good that it's. I don't know. It's I have no idea, but Yeah, there's literally no crypto inside the top 50 really outside of Algorand that has, that horrible of a launch yet
But
has
again, like
potential.
with Algorand, again, why I love it is because you can actually not invest in Algorand, invest in everything that Algorand is producing, and that's the beauty of it. Like you don't technically need the algo other than for gas. So that's why I'm like thinking again, Opulus. I'm praying that Opulus does accomplish its goals and do what it needs to do. But if they don't, other business people will see that model and they can do it better if Opulus does it right. And then
Hey,
same with Law.
Napster was tweeting out Kendrick Lamar. That's a huge
Oh
artist.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
and that's
yeah.
I feel like it's a more mainstream new artist.
He
I mean, I
just
know
dropped
Opulus
too.
got Tyga coming up, but he just Kendrick Lamar just dropped an album. So
Yeah. So so I'm seeing it like that. Like Algorand isn't necessarily need to be a moon token, and I always kind of thought that way. But it's just the rails or the processor, and that could be part of the big picture. But I feel like we will be rewarded once again these governments and countries use it. The price will have to go up based on them buying algos and locking them into contracts for gas and things of that nature.
Yeah, I think if we're projecting out 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to look back and be very jealous of those that were buying at these prices. So I'll just leave it at that.
let me ask this:
Agreed.
is there ever? Do you think just because like I know we look at Bitcoin and we think of Sats, we look at Ethereum when we see point zero whatever ETH and whatnot. Is there ever? Do you think there's ever going to be a day where people are counting algos in decimal places?
Oof.
Or is it all, or do you really see that? Like, do you ever foresee that coming where it's like, oh, you own, point, 9 of an algo? Like,
I know, what would we
that
call that?
is big, right? I don't know. It's
I think they're micro algos.
micro algos. Yeah. Like, do you
there's
think micro algos?
Micro algos.
600, yeah, there's 6 decimal places, yeah, right?
Yeah, because there's 6, and whereas Bitcoin and ETH have 8, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, 8.
Is there? Do you see if? I mean, is that like? Is that like 20 years down the road, 30 years, or is that is that something that's like could be seen as sooner?
To be real, it depends on a few things, mostly how big the crypto market gets, but it also should be taken into account that there's a lot more Algorand than there are Bitcoin or Ethereum. So
True.
that the likelihood of that is slim, because even if Algorand got to the same market cap that Bitcoin peaked at, Algorand would be like $120 or something like that, or what have you, because it was a little over $1 trillion that Bitcoin peaked at, correct, or something like that. So really,
Yes.
Algorand at $120 is the equivalent of Bitcoin at $69,000. They're effectively the same value. So I don't know. There would have to be a lot of money in the market cap for us to start really thinking of it that
Bitcoin
way.
at like 8 or 10 million for one Bitcoin or something.
Shit. Do y'all know what Algorand's fees are going to? I saw something recently that they're using them to buy carbon credits. Y'all know anything about that?
Yeah, they pretty much made it a part of the smart contract that every time a transaction happens, a percentage of those fees will go to buying the carbon credits to offset it. It's pretty much what makes Algorand.
So
It's
they're
basically
collecting the fees and selling the fees for cash to buy carbon credits?
probably, but the thing
I
is,
feel like it's with, isn't it with, is it with Planet, or not Planet Watch?
Climate trade.
Climate trade, yeah. So
It's basically the setup they've had this entire time, but they've automated it now. So for a while they've been offsetting their carbon footprint through climate trade, but they're effectively trying to just automate it and have it built into the system so the transactions offset themselves essentially, which really is effectively no different in my opinion. In fact, it could be better that carbon credits are purchased in real time instead of in bulk, like every month or quarter, or however they did it. So
real time, it keeps those wild price swings from happening.
yeah, that's exactly why tokens like DeFi went to a real time distribution of letting out their distribution tokens every day. It's not fully real time, but it's better than once a month, and then all of a sudden you just have a month of
swings of
one day
volatility.
of sell pressure. Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so we're just about wrapping it up, but let's finish it off with something fun. And you guys want to talk about any new projects that you're seeing out there? I don't know what you guys are seeing, what you're looking at. I've tunnel vision lately. I've basically just been accumulating more Algorand, so I'm gonna need you guys to fill me in on what's cool.
Well, I got one. I've been talking about Wayru a lot, but they just did a 1.9 million seed round with
Yep.
different investors, and I think that's huge, which means they're going to have more eyes and attention attraction, and they are dropping a token in August. Again, I'm not big on buying new tokens, but I do like this project, so I'm supporting it and watching it. So yeah, 1.9 million was that's a lot of bread to grow your company.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've looked into Waiver a little bit. I need to do some more reading on it, but decentralized internet networks, as they are purporting to build,
Yeah.
are very important. So I would
Because
like to
even
look.
rural America needs this just as much as a Latin American country. Like
Yeah,
cities got great internet, but not rural areas.
and a lot of the a lot of the rails on the internet are still very centralized. So I mean, of course, this would be good, but I also don't know much about it, so I don't want to comment on
Oh yeah.
on how they're doing it too much. But I do appreciate the mission and hope they succeed on that. How about you, David? What are you seeing out there?
I mean, I'm not really buying into any ASAs right now. I know I
Same.
just did the interview with Smilecoin. It was cool to learn a little bit, more about what they're doing and trying to build back up, with their community and everything that they're, attacking and trying to get at with the payments processing for GameFi and play to earn and stuff like that. I do, there is some interesting stuff going on with XCT, Xfinite. I've started doing a little bit more research and following, Saxo says, he's kind of been spearheading that. So I like following him and those updates and diving into some of the stuff he puts out there for the community. So shout out to him. From just my own perspective, one that I'm still interested to see, it's definitely taken a lot longer than, the initial rollout, but the Love Chain, it's still a
Oh
social
shit.
media
Yeah.
app that is going to be coming out where you would be rewarded for, I mean, like right now, I spend way too much time that my wife would say on Twitter, liking and retweeting and posting content. And so it would be nice. Maybe Musk will somehow turn Twitter into a Web3 where there's a Twitter token and you get rewarded for your content. I don't know, but the Love Chain is building that, where your posts, your engagements, if you're an influencer, like you could actually make a living, just like stuff like Axie Infinity, Step In, some of these other things that are out there, Xfinite with the Watch to Earn. That could be a social media engagement to earn, where you can like and post and share and all that stuff and earn their lover token. And then that could be, if you're an influencer, I think you actually would get paid in the love token, but it's one of the projects that I'm excited. They did just revamp their whole website. And I think
Love
their
Chain.
beta stage is coming out or is in the process now, but soon it should be launching within this year. And then we'll get to see firsthand kind of what they're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I will say that I do want to shout out Saxo Says, just because the analysis he does on Extranite is actually absolutely stunning. And to be real, actually, when I spoke to him, because I met him in New York actually for Times Square, but I found out that he actually found Algorand because of Exfinite as opposed to the other way around. And he's
Oh
been
wow.
following the company and the project since the very beginning. So it's a very interesting project. A lot of big a lot of big developments and stuff going on underneath the hood. So I
Hopefully
definitely
I was
go
just say,
ahead.
hopefully he didn't buy XCT at the beginning. Is it
Eh,
down?
just like a lot of things, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the lessons where really, like, buying the first day things go public, or even the first like week, can sometimes go amazingly well, but like 80% of the time it does not.
No. It's always best to wait for the most part, see how the market
Yeah.
treats
The
it.
only
Or at
cryptos that
least
I
do it
didn't
like
really go
I
ahead.
was I was gonna say, or at least just do it like a VC does, where they invest 5-10% in a bunch of projects. So like, yeah, even if 8 out of 10 of them do go to zero or go down 90%, hopefully the two other ones were such a big moonshot that it offsets those losses. Because that's literally what VCs do. It's a numbers game. They lose money on, honestly, like most of their investments, but they make so much on the multiples that they make on the few winners
Yep.
that it
Yep.
makes up for everything that they lost.
Yep. That's the Kevin O'Leary.
All right, guys, it's been an hour and 5 minutes. So how about how do we feel about wrapping it up here?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. We got more shows to do this week.
All right, all right. Yeah, we'll see everybody on Thursday, and I appreciate everyone tuning into the show. If you're not subscribed already, subscribe to this channel, subscribe to Crypto for Change and Passive Income Network, and we will catch all of you on Thursday.
Peace, y'all.
See you, everybody.